I'm even the one who hits the ready button, and I wasn't really ready. It's incredible. It's incredible how the brain doesn't work sometimes. You all right over there, Paul?
Yeah. I'm just Tim is it's dragging this out. It's like, what? He's like,
well, while you're dealing with that life scenario, today's show is brought to you by Cloudberry Lab. Check them out at cloudberrylab.com/FRD to learn how to back up your data a little bit better. Protect yourself from ransomware and all that goodness. Or I guess ransomware is really not goodness, but here we are. Here we are, Paul. And I apparently put the show notes on Wednesday because...
I think you're on the wrong microphone.
Am I?
Yeah.
Oh, well, no. The audio's fine. Let me change the Skype one. I had to change Skype.
Let's just keep it. The video is so good.
Well, no. The video recording's fine, but the Skype microphone that is duct taped together.
Okay, that's fine. I can deal with that. You sound like you're coming from a tunnel in a basement somewhere, but it's okay.
Well, Paul, while I fix that, why don't you tell us why the Samsung Galaxy S9 has the best display ever, which is something I feel like we hear every 3 months.
Well, sure, but Samsung makes all of the best displays, and they make the display in the iPhone X, which was briefly the best display in the industry. They now have the best display in the industry with the Samsung Galaxy S9, but it's not a minor thing. It's actually a fairly major thing. If you go and look at the report, it's actually dramatically better than any display that's ever appeared in a smartphone. The thing that just happened, too, was that DxOMark, whatever that company's called, just really, and I was curious why they didn't have this ready for the launch day, but they just released their assessment of the camera in the Galaxy S9, and surprise, it leapfrogged the Pixel 2 XL, and it now has the best camera in the industry. So there's a lot of accolades coming Samsung's way this week. It's been very interesting, and for me, I think the thing that's nice about this is when I saw this phone and saw the announcement, I thought to myself, this is amazing. They've made major leaps in all the right categories. I'm going to write a story about this. And then I looked at what other people were writing on the web, and it was like Samsung, like they're just the same old, same old. It's just like minor revisions. I'm like, that is not what I'm seeing. But it's interesting, like people are kind of coming around to the fact that this is, in fact, like a fairly major upgrade. So, kudos to them, I guess.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I can't switch the mic, so Paul is the only one who has to deal with it, which I'm okay with. Because if I do, much like the code that Paul put up for Sea of Thieves, what would take over Paul's face and display would be my microphone settings, which I almost did. But I can't get over that the picture's crystal clear now for you.
Yeah. It's funny. I keep saying, I don't ever change anything. I don't know why. Whatever. Yesterday when I was doing Windows Weekly, I actually noticed at one point that my video looked blurry, and I'd have to go back and look at the recording to see if that was the case. But yeah, I mean, right now, for whatever reason, it looks really clear, like really clear.
Yeah.
This is the way it should always look.
Yes. This is what it's normally supposed to be like, not the Vaseline-infused Paul Thurrott we usually get.
Yes.
But just to kind of hit on that display, that's interesting, but at the same time, it shouldn't be. I mean, Samsung makes a significant majority of the amount of displays in the world, whether or not they're branded under their own name or all that. I mean, they are they're the display experts.
So there's two things that's interesting about this. One is that, Apple always gets this pass, right? Like Samsung makes the display in the iPhone X, but everyone's like, well, Apple optimized it. They did somehow they got this part and they made it better. They shined it a little bit or something. Like, it's just this ludicrous, like Apple always has to be the best, The thing that's interesting about this to me isn't that, like you said, like the newest phone has the best, whatever. It should. That doesn't always happen though. But in this case, I think it's it's interesting because of how dramatic this is. Like if you read this report, which is hard to read, it's all weird capital letters everywhere and lots of words. But if you actually read the report, like even they seem kind of surprised by. There are instances where they're like, "This is perfect." Like we don't believe it is possible to make it better than it is. Like it's really interesting. Like they really went kind of head over heels.
Which and I think you hit on this point. You'd think that if Samsung knew this, they would have been like screaming this during their entire presentation. But
that was the one thing. The camera was the camera, not the screen, but the camera was such a heavy part of their keynote. I was sure they were going to say, and DxO Mark, whatever. And then same thing with the display. I mean, they basically downplayed it. I mean, we already have a great display. We made it a little bit better. The bezels are a little bit smaller, whatever. And I was like, okay, whatever. That's all it kind of has to be.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Other things that are happening today, happened actually yesterday, I believe, but Microsoft Teams now lets you add guest emails with basically any old MSA account. We knew this was coming. It's finally enabled, and if you're using Teams, you can now do that. If you're not using Teams, this makes no relevance.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, so in other words, anonymous access or non-MSA, I think it was like AAD access to Teams. Is going to require an organization that has Teams. So it's not the full blown, you and I as individuals with our Gmail accounts could use Teams together.
Yep. And then kind of the other late breaking news, if you want to call it that, but even though it's not really late or breaking or has any dramatic impact today, I believe its first name is Javier, and I believe his last name is Soltero, and he's from the Outlook. Didn't they sell a Comply? He's part of the Comply team, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he was brought into Microsoft to run Outlook, and he's a great guy, by the way.
Yeah.
And I theoretically, I like his plan. He talked about unifying Outlook and everything. That hasn't happened, and I feel like there's kind of a job left undone here. We've got 13 different Outlook clients across the web, PCs and Macs and mobile devices. I really wish more had been done and more will be done to consolidate that stuff. It doesn't, and I don't mean literally it has to be the exact same client, but, very similar user experiences, I think is not too much to ask. And then identical functionality where appropriate. Obviously, there are certain instances where the mobile device might not be able to handle whatever the task is, or, swiping must make more sense on a mobile device than it does on the web or whatever. But I just, I don't know. But that said, Cortana is obviously directionless and in dire need of help. So I hope he's not the last man standing on the Titanic when that ship goes down for the count. But I think we can all agree there's no good outcome here. So I wish him luck. But
yep. So Javier is going to be taking over Cortana. He's now I don't know if I would assume he was probably a VP prior. I don't know. I would think that
sure what his exact.
Yeah.
Yeah, but either VP or corporate VP. Yeah.
He is now the VP of Cortana, and hopefully we will see some traction on that front other than one Harman Kardon speaker and nothing else.
I joked with you guys, I guess, before the show. Whoever was in charge of Cortana before must have been tasked with, look, just get 2 speakers into the market. And he was like, I could totally do that. And they only got 1, so they're like, you're out of here. Although I heard that nobody actually lost their job over this.
Yeah.
This isn't. He's not necessarily replacing anyone else. We kind of were scrambling to figure out, who ran Cortana before. I had this vague notion that because it's kind of an AI thing, it was under, that part of Microsoft. And I do know that Cortana is not part of the Windows org, by the way, or we know, I should say. I don't think there was a single person hey, my job is Cortana. Being in charge of Cortana. I mean, obviously there are individuals working on Cortana. So I don't know. Maybe this is just a realization on Microsoft's part that they need some kind of a vision driving this thing. And he's, like I said, he's a great guy. I mean, I wish him luck, but I don't know.
Paul, I'm going to give you a homework assignment for tomorrow's show.
Okay.
I was thinking about this. Paul, I don't know if you're aware, but we're really good at pointing out what, and don't say anything today because then we won't have a show tomorrow, which is a live show at 1 p.m. Eastern time. We're really good at pointing out all the crap stuff Microsoft does. I say tomorrow we make a list of the stuff that they actually do right.
Whew, well, that's a good idea, Fox News. Wow.
Wow, that was...
I'm a little nervous about this because I kind of hinted at this on Windows Weekly yesterday. So when you look at something like Windows 10, just to take a specific part of Microsoft, something I care about deeply, Windows has been the center of my professional life, for 20-something years, whatever. I care about it. And there's lots to like in Windows 10 for sure, Lots of the stuff that's good, the kind of foundational work that's in Windows 10, kind of sits unchanged or just changes in kind of pointless ways. And to drive some sort of excitement in the product, it seems like over the past couple of years, they focused on what I call nonsense things, 3D, Windows mixed reality, that just don't benefit a wide range of people. And then they've added a wide range of irritants to the product that do affect a wide range of people. That Cortana thing I keep complaining about in setup, or all of the ads and the stupid inbox game crapware, and there's this like stuff that's kind of irritating. And every new version of Windows 10, we kind of have this conversation, like, well, what's new in this release? And the list of things that are kind of like noteworthy and interesting is very small. But if you were to look at something like RS4 that's about to be released, right? There is, in fact, a major new productivity-focused feature in this version of the operating system, which is that timeline feature, which extends the task the task view to let you go back in time on the same PC and sync across PCs, I guess, right? So maybe you were working on a certain set of documents and applications on your work PC. You come home, you sign into the same account. You can bring that stuff back up and get back to work on the same project or whatever. It's a good idea. The issue I have with that is that no one's going to use this. No one's going to use it. And it's going to be a combination of things. It's the fact that third-party applications have to buy into it or they're not going to appear in timeline. But the basic reason is just that we as Windows users are stuck in our way of doing things. If you look at the things that that you install when you do a new PC or the things that I install, we're basically looking at the same exact things we've been doing for 10 whatever years. I mean, doing something new and different in Windows just runs contrary to the entire point of this, which is productivity and getting a job done and getting in and out. Like I'm going to write something in Word, I'm going to leave. I'm going to do email and Outlook, and I'm going to leave. Like I don't want to learn new things. And I think that's I do. I mean, but I think that's the PC user kind of way of being or whatever. So it's tough. So in other words, like, well, what are they doing right? Well, I don't know. They put things like My People in there that no one uses. They put things like Timeline in there, which I don't think anyone's going to use. And I salute them for doing productivity work, for basic, fundamental, whatever. But even the good stuff has kind of a downside to it.
Well, here we are trying to be optimists, and
all right, I'll think on this. What do they do right? I don't know. They released that app today for only on an iPhone, but for blind people to have spatial audio, and they can set what are essentially audio landmarks out in the real world. And they, in other words, I go to this coffee shop every day. They probably know how to navigate there, right? I mean, they probably already, have their system for doing that, whether it's a guide dog or a cane or whatever it is. But this is a way for them to learn more about what's going on around them. It's wonderful. It's nice. It's one of those heartstring kind of things. There's nothing negative to say about it. It's so cool that they do that kind of work. And now think of another one. It's kind of hard. All right,
well, that's why I said it's a homework assignment and not preaching to the choir assignment. But we will. I'll be curious to see. I've got a few things. Obviously, I mean, you could say certain things and then be like, well, this one particular aspect of it sucks. But just generally speaking.
I don't even really mean it like that. Like, again, not to ruin tomorrow, but I mean, like Office 365 is obviously pretty fantastic, whatever. It's an interesting way of Microsoft doing what they are saying for other companies to do, which is to make this transition to the cloud. It's a really successful example of them taking a legacy product and bringing it to the cloud and having it be more valuable than the thing it replaced. It's great. But the downside for that is not anything that's Microsoft's fault. It's that Office still is a legacy software product, and the Office apps we still install are still these are really old-fashioned kind of things. And there's this new thing out in the world that are called Google Apps and Google Docs and Google whatever. And the old school kind of Microsoft guys can all kind of laugh at that and explain how they don't do as much or they're not as good or whatever. But the truth is, there's a whole generation of people growing up on just that stuff, and that is just going to sweep over Microsoft. So it's good, but all right, I'm sorry.
You got anything else to ruin tomorrow's show, or should we just chop this one?
Tomorrow I'm going to come up with things that don't have a but in the sentence. if you know what I mean.
You got anything else for today, Paul?
Today has been a surprisingly busy day, so I'll see how it goes. But I have a few more ideas planned for articles and stuff, so I don't want to ruin it. But yeah, probably. What about you?
Well, for some inexplicable reason, I was going to complain about Miracast, but that actually wasn't the issue. My daughter has a half day today, so she's going to be home in approximately 60 minutes for whatever reason. She's going to be home along with my wife. So I'm assuming I'm going to get nothing done because my wife lives and dies by the philosophy if she's not working, I'm not working either. So.
Yes. Oh, speaking of which, tomorrow afternoon after the podcast, I'm going to be gone for the rest of the afternoon. We're heading into Philadelphia to meet some of our relatives who live in where do they live, Paul? In Delaware now. Sorry, they moved recently from Maryland to Delaware. This is kind of like a halfway point. So to beat the traffic and also to be outside in the rain, we are going to leave in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we got 2 consecutive days of seeing the large burning thing in the sky. I'd like a few more of those, but now
I don't know. We had 3 good days there. I went out, walked the dog 3 days in a row. I met my steps goal. It was fantastic. Today it's going to rain. Tomorrow it's going to rain literally all day. I don't know. I'm going to have to do something else. I wonder if the dog would get on the treadmill with me.
Please, for everything, record that. Please. That is...
Right, I'll just put her feet. Here you go. You got it.
Please record that. Please do. All right, folks. So that wraps it up for today. And today's show is brought to you by Cloudberry Lab. Check them out, cloudberrylab.com/FRD for a free trial offer that will go away. So make sure to grab that. And tomorrow's show is live. That's 1 p.m. Eastern Time, not Central Time or Greenwich Mean Time. That's Eastern Time, as people always ask. And you can find out more information at thurrott.com/live because that's where it will show up at 1 p.m. If nothing else, have yourselves a wonderful day.